Yeah, because no,
I didn't see an email.
I didn't even see an email.
Okay.
yeah, there was something floating through, but I thought you'd already had it approved during budget time, did you?
Yeah.
So theoretically, we didn't know why you had to come back then.
Even if it's approved at budget time.
Depends on the position.
But the council approved it at budget.
If it's a new position, yeah.
So go ahead and do the damn thing.
Just tell me what I had to do.
I mean, if it's been approved in budget, that means it's been approved. Supposed to.
But doesn't it still have to come back to us if it's a newly created position?
Yeah, we approved it during budget time.
But it never got
I mean,
created,
did
that's
it
just the
come?
funding.
That's just funding. Did it come to us?
That's why it's supposed to have to come back here, and to go back. They said they didn't want to start anybody at the end of the year. They wanted to wait until February. Their agenda was February.
So try and get on the next agenda then.
So you may not have to do it with the probably don't have to do it with the council.
Yeah, now that she's gone. All right, I will have Kathy on too. Put it on the next agenda.
I show 10 o'clock. Everybody ready?
He's good.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tippecanoe County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, January 17th. Please rise, join me in the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our January 3rd, 2023 meeting.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion we approve those minutes as submitted.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
First of all,
Aye.
before we do that, I just want to make sure that those exhibits are going to be part of the minutes that are referred to. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Looks like we have our accounts payable vouchers.
Mr. President, I move we approve the vouchers from December 30th of 22 to January 17th of 23 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Payroll.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the January 6th payroll as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Commissioner Murtaugh?
Okay. So next we have an agreement with Baker Tilly, an IRA tax credit amendment. It turns out that the solar array project that we've done at Community Corrections is available for a tax credit from the federal government, and that because obviously we don't pay taxes, instead of doing a tax credit, it's just a rebate from the federal government for that project. So based on that, we should get about 40% of the total cost of the project back. And this is a contract with Baker Tilly for not to exceed $50,000 to prepare all the documents for that and to ensure compliance. With that, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
I'm sorry, I will make a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion passes.
Mr. President, I move that we hear ordinance 2023-02-CM, amending the Tippecanoe County Stormwater Management Ordinance.
Second.
Good morning, Zach.
You want me to lead with the process, and then you can give them the substance?
Please.
Yeah, so this is the ordinance discussed at the Drainage Board meeting. It would amend the stormwater ordinance as well as the technical standards. The Drainage Board and the Surveyor's Office are the technical authorities on this, and they have sort of jurisdiction over the stormwater standards, but the ordinance that you have incorporates those by reference. The Commissioner's Office, or the Board of Commissioners is the body that can amend the ordinance, so it's technically been recommended to you by the Drainage Board, and now it's before you for approval on first reading.
Very good. Thank you, Doug. Good morning, Commissioners. Zach Beasley, County Surveyor. I'm also here as the MS4 Coordinator. A little more background as to how we arrived here today, in addition to what Doug just said. Many of you may remember that in Tippecanoe County, the 7 entities that make up the Tippecanoe County Partnership for Water Quality, which the county is the lead agency, Lafayette, City of West Lafayette, Purdue University, Ivy Tech, Dayton, and Battleground are the 7 entities that make up the partnership. We have agreed collectively through our MS4 permit with IDEM that we will review our local stormwater ordinance on a 5-year basis. So this is part of that general thumb rule, or general 5-year rule of thumb review process. So what does that mean? What does that means that all 7 entities operate under the same stormwater ordinance. And so just to give you an update on those other 6 entities, we just had a meeting last week on Thursday. The other 6 entities are moving forward with adopting the same ordinance. So we're all kind of on the same timeline, give or take a month or two, because we all have different approval processes. So they are moving forward with that. The other thing that I want everyone to know is that there has been a 2 to 2.5 year vetting process, if you will, of this ordinance by those 7 entities or representatives of those 7 entities. We've met right here in this room about once a month for about 2 years. Not only just the local entities and representatives of local entities, but also the public stakeholders. So the builders, the developers, representatives from our local builders association were here also. So all the stakeholders were involved in this process. They've reviewed all the changes, and we made adjustments based off of their comments. So everyone that this impacts as far as on a daily life has reviewed this, and so it was not done in a vacuum, is what I wanted to be clear on. Now, with that said, there was 3 main bullet points that I want to outline as far as either updates or additions. One of the driving forces behind this is that IDEM, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, recently changed what has historically been known as the Rule 5, which is a sediment erosion control permit for construction sites. They have now changed that to what's called a construction stormwater general permit. And so we had to go through and change all the language in the ordinance to meet that. And there were some other criteria that changed and regulation that changed within that was updated also. The second item is new to the ordinance, and it's language explaining what fluvial erosion hazard is. And without going into a lot of detail on this, just real quickly, historically in this county, we have always regulated structures to be built 2 foot above the 100-year flood elevation for rivers, creeks, and streams. Now we're looking at the horizontal position of those structures in relationship to our rivers, creeks, and streams. Because what we've started to notice in this county is that some of our rivers, creeks, and streams have severe erosion along the banks, and they're moving horizontally 30, 40, 50 feet in 1 year, which if we build a structure in close proximity can be very problematic. And so this language in the ordinance addresses those issues. The next item is many of my counterparts across the state have been calling me recently, or in the last 3 or 4 years. There's been a lot of solar farms going in across the state, which I'm sure all of you know. There was no language in our ordinance to address solar farms, so we put some language in there to address solar farms also. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's the highlights. I'd ask for your approval.
Thank you, Zach. Any questions from the board? Would anybody from the public like to comment on this ordinance? Seeing none?
Byers,
Yes.
Murtaugh,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-2 CM passes 3-0 on first reading.
Zach, is this one where we need to suspend the rules, or are we good enough to wait another month so it's out there, or?
Yeah,
2
there's
weeks.
no hurry on our
2
end,
weeks,
so
whichever.
my recommendation would be to wait a month, but I'm happy to accommodate whatever
Till
you
our
choose.
next meeting?
Yeah, I've got it set for the draft you've got there has February 6th, the second
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Area Plan Commission, Mr. Hiddle.
I'll make a motion, we hear ordinance 2023-03-CM.
Second.
And this is actually, should be 2022-03-CM. And I'll explain that. I was going to go first with the procedure since I kind of initiated this one. So back last year, you considered 2022-03-CM, which had to do with the recommendation on self-storage units. And it had sort of an interesting procedural path to you. The Area Plan Ordinance Committee had a version in January of last year. I think that, I don't know if they adopted it, but in any case, in April, they added language to that January version. And the April version went to Area Plan. Area Plan voted against that 2-14 or anyway, pretty significantly. But it came to you with that negative recommendation from the April language of the Ordinance Committee. On Area Plan's recommendation, you sent it back to be in the form of the January language. Area Plan approved that. The way the statute works, because you returned it with amendments, it became effective with their approval. So what that ended up triggering was, in the auditor's office, you had this ordinance 2022-03-CM that had never been signed. It was kind of hard to tell what happened with it. So what you have before you is an amended form of that ordinance, which sort of documents the path it took to get here and ratifies the action. It's not really a substantive action on your part, but now if you approve this, you will have an ordinance that is signed and reflects the date. And so if anybody gets curious on what happened, it's easy to track.
I'm glad we have an attorney to do this for us, yeah. Clean up.
And this just takes one reading?
Yeah, it's just one because it's an amendment to the zoning ordinance. And so if your motion would be clarified to be for 2022-03-CM, even though the agenda said 03.
I will amend my motion to hear.
Second.
Okay, those in favor signify by saying,
No, let's do it.
I'm sorry, we're just amending. Go ahead.
I could not improve upon what Mr. Massey said.
It's all right.
Okay. Any other questions for David or Doug? Public comment?
Byers,
Yes.
Murtaugh,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-03-CM passes 3-0.
Good morning.
Morning, Stu.
Just have one item this morning. This is an agreement with Norfolk Southern Railway as a first step in the installation of a new railroad signalized crossing on 38 across from the easternmost entrance to Subaru, that existing signal there. It's in the amount of $50,112, and this covers the design, force account design. The railroad designs the signal and builds the signal. There'll be a second agreement for the building of the signal. Cover?
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that we approve this agreement with Norfolk Southern Railway as presented.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second for the agreement for PE services with Norfolk Southern. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
I don't see Julie out there, but I seem to recall this agreement with Pinnacle, and I know, Doug, I think you did the
Yeah,
terms and agreement on it.
yeah, I've looked at it. This is a renewal of something we've done, I think, every year. And as I recall, the price is fairly minimal.
It's with Pinnacle Mailing Products, it basically for ongoing maintenance, and the cost is $227.12 per year. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, and the motion passes. I think that goes with it, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what this is.
Good morning.
Oh, this
That's
is
a copy
the-
of
we're
it.
tabling this, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning. Cindy Shockey, Tippecanoe County IT Department Project Planner. Where's everybody this morning?
Cindy, I will just interrupt you, and there is one issue with the contract, though, so we do need to table this.
Oh, you do need me to
Yes,
do it.
yeah.
I didn't get that message.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well,
Okay.
it was
All right.
relatively
So I will
soon,
get
so-
with you later then.
Okay, all right, thanks.
We have a professional services agreement with Youth Services.
And Rebecca has a conflict and could not be here. This is just a renewal of the professional services agreement with Dr. Oskoff. And it is to run through December 31st of 2023 for professional services. I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to ask permission to apply for grants from the Drug Free Coalition in Tippecanoe County for our 3 departments. We have the Health Department, Community Corrections, as well as the Sheriff Office. They're seeking funding from the DFC for various projects related to the 2023 Comprehensive Community Plan.
Mr. President, I move we grant permission to apply for Drug Free Coalition as stated.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask permission for the CASA to accept the grants from the GLL CASA Capacity Grant in the amount of $25,000 to provide marketing, advertisement, and outreach for our volunteers.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we grant permission to accept as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
And again, the CASA has received an award letter for $54,600 from CASA for Kids that funds the regular part-time position, benefits, and insurance for the single coverage.
Mr. President, I move we grant permission to accept for CASA as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Commissioner Murtaugh, I believe you have something in new and unfinished business?
I do. We have a resignation from the Wabash River Heritage Corridor Commission, the alternate position. Vanessa Ascott has left the community, so she can no longer serve in that capacity. So I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Madison Nair in her place. This is normally a 2-year term, but there's only 1 year left. It will expire at the end of this calendar year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to make the appointment. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Reports on file from, we'll have these in the office immediately following the meeting, from the Building Commission, the Tippecanoe County Public Library, the Tippecanoe County Treasurer's Report, a report from, and also a report from the Wabash River Heritage Corridor Commission. Again, those will all be available immediately after the meeting. Any public comment?
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.